Hey parents, Master Shield here. So I wanted to go over with you guys what the modern day challenges that our children face today. And for many of us, especially if you're an older parent, we didn't experience this growing up as kids. And so unfortunately, we have no frame of reference to kind of guide them with. And for a lot of children, they're kind of left to their own devices, no pun intended. And it does have a negative adverse effect. So let's talk about technology. So a lot of people don't realize that the average child is getting 74 gigs of information every day. And I would imagine this study was done pre-COVID. I would imagine that number is even greater today. So that means they're bombarded all the time, whether it's phones, tablets, computers, music, TVs. I mean, it's just a constant bombardment of information. I think it's like 2 million bits of information every minute. The average child pre-pandemic was spending about 70 hours a week connected to these devices in some form or fashion. Today, it's in excess of 106 hours a week. And it's one of the reasons why we're seeing really short attention spans. They can't maintain eye contact during conversation. Their social skills are terrible, and just all these other things that we're seeing along with that. So Harvard University in 2010 did a study, and it showed that parents or adults were they're about 8 feet from their phone on average. That was in 2010. In 2021, that distance reduced to about 18 inches. Now it's about 6 inches. So people are constantly, touching their phone all the time. In fact, the average adult touches their phone 205 times a day. And so if you really add that up, I pick up my phone, I check something, I get distracted, or I see a meme, or I see a video, whether it's TikTok or Reels or whatever it is, the average adult is spending over 3 hours a day just on their phone. And a lot of it's done at work. So how much work productivity time are you losing, in your ability to advance inside of your workspace? Or if you are a manager, how much time are your employees costing you because they're not being diligent? One of the things here at Peak, I'll tell them, when you're on your own time, you can be on your phone. When you're on peak time, no phones. We need to be focused on what's going on for the kids, and especially when the kids are here. All right, so the average teen is using their phone about 9 hours a day compared to where the adults are at. So when you think about that, that's 1/3 of their day is spent on their phones. Now, with the schools allowing them or forcing them not to be on their phones, I think we have a better opportunity to decrease that a little bit. But we'll see what the studies show once it's done. But I'll tell you, having sat out in front of the schools when school is being dismissed, these kids are coming out of the schools. They're immediately on their phones. Faces are down, looking at their screens, and they're completely oblivious to anything that's going on around them. Now, one of the factors that these are some of the factors that contribute to shorter attention spans. I mean, our curriculum years ago, pre-COVID, was built on a 6-minute attention span. Now it's even less than that. They have diminished social skills. A lot of these kids don't know how to talk to each other. And so when they get in groups, you'll see them just get unhinged about things that are really just not that important. That's one of the biggest things that we work on inside of the academy is dealing with social situations, how to deal with conflict resolutions. And because of them being on their phones all the time and being so sedentary, a lot of children are heavier than they used to be. There's a rise in type 2 diabetes. They're less physically active. Heck, I've got kids that can't even do one sit-up, one push-up, unable to hold their body off the ground in a push-up position or a plank position because their core strength is just absolutely non-existent. Now, one thing you need to understand is that with children, especially today, being in utero, they have all this electronic signatures going on around them all the time, and their brains are adapting to that. That's one reason why they're able to, even at 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, get on a phone and navigate it, because their brains are already wired that way. So it's super important for us to make sure that we're mitigating that, that hold on them as they're going through their massive development cycles. Another thing is too, for us, we had that hot hand on the stove experience when we were in the kitchen with our parents or with our grandparents, and they would tell us, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove. And sure enough, we'd have to try it out. And sure enough, we'd get our hand burnt, and we'd understand that there was consequences to that. The problem we have today is that for many of us, we weren't on phones when we were kids. We didn't understand the negative ramifications that it has in their lives. Sleep patterns, social skills, attention spans, their development process, how it wires the brain. So it's super important that we are doing that. And I'll give you some recommendations a little later on. So you need to know the deal. What programs are your children watching? What music are they listening to and the programming that it has? What are they reading? What social media sites are they on? And are you checking it? What is the social programming at school? So one of the biggest things that our children face today is reality programming and the negative impact it's having in our society, because they want drama. They want all these negative impact parts. Years ago, I wanted to do a reality series based off of the Scared Straight series that was on TV already. I wanted to work with the parents to give them a better foundation at home so that they could work better with their children to have better results. And so when I went to meet with the producers, they were talking about, hey, can you yell and scream at the parents like they do, like the inmates do at the jails? And I'm like, what is that going to help? Right? I need to give these parents different skill sets that frankly none of us grew up with. And we have to reprogram that process. We can set great expectations, but a lot of the reasons why these kids rebel is, one, they're seeing programming on TV where they're seeing kids, scream and yell at their parents, and it's okay. I was watching a show last night where, the parent was so afraid to tell the child they couldn't do something, and it was like, the kids were ruling the roost, and it can't be that way. We have to be the parents in this. So with the networks, they want drama because drama sells advertising. They want fear. They want anxiety, and they want you to be able to look and say, man, I'm glad my life's not that crappy. So let me go ahead and keep doing it. And for some of it is, mindful entertainment, but it's not what our kids need to be watching. And for a lot of them, that they're learning how to communicate with people, and they think that, it's okay to constantly berate somebody, constantly talk negatively about them to create drama. Now, here's another thing we need to be aware of, is that the average 7 to 17-year-old is playing video games, and we all know it. We see it every day. One of the biggest things I have when parents walk in here is that, yeah, he's on his tablet all the time, or he's playing video games all the time. So the average 7 to 17-year-old is spending almost 50 hours a week of video games. The average 35-year-old is double that almost. Well, now it's well over 100 hours a week. We have adults that are spending 2 full-time jobs playing video games. And if they're not paying attention to their kids, what difference do you think it's going to make in that child's life as they're growing up? Our kids just want one thing from us. And you'll hear me say this all the time. They just want our time and attention. And that little bit of time you'll give them every day will pay massive dividends for you and your family. And then when they have children of their own down the road. So just to give you more statistics, the average hours per week kids play video games. There's 2 million bits of information every second, 24-hour connectivity, reality programming, why parents are ill prepared. And this is what's causing a lot of these issues. So just so you understand that the average child in our nation is bullied an average of every 67 seconds. 1 out of every 3 teens report being bullied. 160,000 students stay home from school every day because of bullying. 43% fear harassment in the bathroom. 80% of verbal bullying ends up in a physical fight. And this is one of the biggest things the schools won't talk about. Is that, and I dealt with this with a local school district. when they wanted me to back the current anti-bullying policy, which I don't agree with. And that's they want the kid being bullied to be nice to their aggressor, and that it never works, because once they're not getting what they want of them, it will turn physical. And in situations with schools, is there's no involvement in 85% of the bullying cases, and a lot of times the kids are just going to swallow it and they're going to bury it, and you wonder why they're changing, they're acting different, they're just being not themselves. And these are things we have to tune into as parents. Now let's get into cyberbullying, because this is another big place. When you and I were dealing with any kind of bullying growing up, when school was over, it was over, and we had a respite. We had a break. But today, there is no break. So let's talk about some statistics here. 97% of all middle school students are bullied online. 47% of older youth, 18 to 24, are bullied. Now you'd think 18 to 24, I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. I'm just not going to engage. But it still happens. 35% of kids have been threatened online. Nearly 1 in 5 have happened more than once. 21% of kids have received mean or threatening email or text messages or IG messages or whatever you want to call it that are there. 58% of kids admit someone has said mean or hurtful things to them online. More than 4 out of 10 say it's happened more than once. Now, the one reason why this is so important, it's not about, never having anybody say hurtful things for you. It's empowering them to not give a crap about what anybody else says. And one of the things that I'll teach the kids in here is your opinion of me doesn't matter. Frankly, I don't care. And getting them to that mindset that if it's not somebody that's important to them, then that opinion just doesn't matter. 53% of kids admit having said something mean or hurtful to another person. So it's learned behavior, and they feel like, well, that's the only way that I can get over on somebody else or to feel good about myself is to hurt somebody else. This is the wrong pattern we want to set. 58% have not told their parents or adult about something mean or hurtful that happened to them online. And it's really important that as parents, we don't overreact. We dissect. We find out, was it just someone being hurtful or mean in the moment? And we can teach them how to empower themselves on frankly not giving a crap about what that person says. Or we truly have somebody saying, you know what, you really need to go kill yourself. Completely different conversation from, I don't want to play with you. So just understand that, and we can teach all those tactics to you. Signs your child is being intimidated. Look for changes in your child. However, be aware that not all children who are bullied exhibit warning signs. Some signs that may point to being bullying are unexplained injuries, lost or destroyed clothing, books, electronic or jewelry, frequent headaches or stomach aches, feeling sick or faking illness, changing in eating habits, like suddenly skipping meals or binge eating. Kids may come home from school hungry because they did not eat lunch. Maybe their lunch money was taken. Now, some of this is not the same anymore because money's electronically put on their accounts, right? But if somebody's making fun of their weight and they don't want to eat in front of somebody because they're like, oh, you're just stuffing your face fat, just whatever it is, just be understanding that. Difficulty sleeping or frequent nightmares, declining grades, loss of interest in schoolwork or not wanting to go to school, sudden loss of friends or avoidance of social situations, feelings of helplessness or decreased self-esteem, self-destructive behaviors such as running away from home, harming themselves, or talking about suicide. All of these lead our children to have major fears, anxiety, depression, social exclusion, and more, which leads them to quit or not persevere through the life challenge in front of them. And especially in martial arts or other sports or music or whatever it is, these are contributing factors that happen. And this is the reasons why kids want to quit, because it gets a little too tough for them. And we'll talk about the quitting habit in just a little bit, or in the next phase. So, call to action on this part. 1, limit phone and screen time. Keep kids off smartphones as long as humanly possible. If you need them to have a phone, give them one that lets them dial numbers, but it doesn't let them access the internet or social media. Shut off all electronic devices at least 2 hours before bedtime, and here's why. All of these phones, tablets, TVs, they emit a blue light. That blue light interrupts their circadian rhythm. It doesn't allow them to sleep. If they don't sleep properly, they're exhausted when they get up in the morning. They're irritable. They don't learn properly, and you get into a bad cycle. Shut off our own phones and spend more time with them in the evening, reading, playing games, having discussions, getting outside and playing. This will pay massive dividends for you in the future. So next phase we're going to talk about is, what are we feeding our kids? Studies have shown the food we are feeding our children, especially here in the United States, is riddled with metals, plastics, fillers, dyes, and other harmful chemicals, which are having an adverse effect on their brain, moods, sleep, and overall behavior. Heck, if you were to go to the border between Canada and the United States and buy Fruit Loops, and you look at the ingredients on the US side and literally walk across the border and look at the Canada side, it's massively different. We're poisoning our kids. And it's one reason why we're having some of the things. So I'm going to go over some things just to look for. You make your own decisions, but I'm just trying to help you guys out in the things we've learned. So, top 10 hidden dangers in children's foods. How additives, dyes, processed ingredients affect behavior, growth, and development. So, why this matters. Today's children consume more ultra-processed foods than ever. Nutrition affects focus, mood, growth, and academic success. And hidden additives can influence attention, hyperactivity, and health. You want to know why a lot of our kids have ADD or ADHD? Now, there's some. I have a bipolar child, and there are kids that are legitimately diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. But for a lot of these children, a diet change, greater exercise, getting them off electronic devices will diminish that quickly. Ultra-processed foods found in chips, cereals, nuggets, snacks. They're linked to obesity and disease. Replace real foods, reduce focus and emotional control, and there's some better choices for you guys that you can read there. Sugar-sweetened beverages, and this is big. This is one reason why I don't allow this in our summer camp. Sodas, sports drinks like Gatorade has more sugar than sodas. There's flavored milk, and this is what I don't understand why the schools do this. They give them chocolate milk and strawberry milk, and even whole milk has a lot of sugar in it. Why are we doing this to our kids? They eat lunch, they have all this processed sugar, and then they get in the classroom and they're exhausted and they're tired because their body's trying to break the sugars down. And so it causes fatigue and poor sleep, sugar spikes, mood crashes. So better choices is water, or fruit and infused water, or maybe some flavored water, but the sugar is what's really doing that. Now, milk, if you can get to 1% or 2%, not with all the sugar, and there would be a better choice. And we've already talked a little bit about energy drinks, but our society is, addicted to energy drinks. You want to know why Red Bull is one of the biggest supporters of racing throughout the entire world in every genre? Is because they have one of the biggest energy drinks on the planet. Pre-workouts. They contain sugars. Some of the pre-workout stuff contains metals. Go look at muscle milk and look at the ingredients inside of it. There's AAP, which is no place in a child's diet. There's anxiety, sleep loss, heart issues. Give them water is one of the best things you can give to them all the time. That's one reason why in summer, that's all that I want is water. It's a better choice for them. Synthetic food dyes. And this is a big, big thing. I was talking about it just a little bit earlier with, if you buy Fruit Loops on the state side, they have red dyes and yellow dyes and blue dyes. But you go over on the other side of Canada, just literally on the other side of the border, and they're using blueberry juice for dye. They're using cherry juice, strawberry juice. The juice itself, not, synthetic dyes to get the coloring in it. It's linked to hyperactivity and attention issues. And Red 3 banned in California in 2027, and with the new HHS secretary, you're going to see a lot of these things are going to start being eliminated, which is great. I'm glad to hear this. There's titanium oxide. So anything found in white candies, gums, frostings, they're not safe. They're genotoxicity concerns. Look for anything that's titanium, no titanium dioxide. And even with bread is, when you do bread, they bleach bread, and it's not good for your body. Emulsifiers found in ice cream, sauces, dressings. They disrupt gut microbiome, affect mood and focus. Better choice, simple ingredients, right? And you're gonna see a theme author here. What are the biggest things it's affecting? Mood, focus, sleep, all they're affecting. And then when we're wondering why our kids aren't sleeping, is because we're putting garbage in and we're getting garbage out. Nitrites and nitrates. They're found in hot dogs, processed bacon, deli meats, and they're linked to cancer. And so you just can look for more nitrate type foods. So these are additives that have been recently restricted, but they are there. And for a lot of us, we've eaten these things forever. And that's one reason why adults are having some of the problems we're having are BBOs, propylbaron, potassium bromate, red 3. I mean, it goes on. It disrupts hormone activity and is toxic to the body. And so a lot of these bans are going to start, but they're still in the food now. So you're going to have to be reading labels to really, especially if your child's having, they're having mood swings all the time, and you don't understand why, they can't sleep at night, and all. If we're having any kind of behavioral issues, a lot of it's tied to these two categories we're going over. Non-sugar sweeteners. Now, even though it says like diet sodas, the additives and stuff they have in there trick the brain into thinking it's sugar, and it processes the same. So be very careful about, aspartame, some of the carcinogenic features to it. It alters our gut bacteria, and if our gut's out of line, it affects everything. It affects how we process food. It affects our skin. It affects our focus. It affects our health. It affects all these things. So just be more in tune to that. Melatonin and sleep gummies. So OTC gummies, sleep aids, there's hormone use and there's overdose risk. So just be careful of overshooting melatonin. A lot of these things can be done with better routines, limiting screens, especially a couple hours before nighttime, because of the blue screens interrupting the natural circadian rhythm your body already has. So quick fixes, instead of doing soda, let's do water. Instead of candy, you can do fruit. Instead of packaged snacks like Lunchables or some things like that that are prepackaged already, take a little bit more time, do some home cooked meals, package it up. Look for simple ingredients. The fewer the ingredients, the better. And let's work on getting some better sleep habits. So we want fewer additives, so calmer behavior and better focus. And the small swaps will equal lifelong benefits and healthier kids, more successful kids, a better home life. It'll make a big difference on where things are at for you. So I want you to start this week with, replace one processed snack, read a food label together, teach them about food so that they can understand, about making healthy choices. And that's something we have to control. Not let them just get automatically addicted to something and they gripe and cry and scream and pitch a fit because they're not getting something that ultimately is affecting the mood you're trying to eliminate or trying to avoid to begin with. So the next step is to attend the live event and interact with me at one of the live events. I'm working on get this recorded because I know I've got some parents that, because of their work schedule, it does make it very hard. Our goal is the village raising the child. And to do that, we've got to be together on this. So the next phase is really going to help you understand what we do inside of Peak, and all the resources we bring to the table and the expertise we bring to the table that will help them achieve greater success in life. So I want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity and reading this information and understanding the challenges that are facing our kids and how we're going to help them be the greatest versions of themselves. We'll see you at the live event. Talk soon. Bye-bye.